class, but doesn't really work.
You're good.
All I want to talk about, I put goes out Ooga Booga a few days ago after Bob's accident, and just want to stress that this spring seems to be particularly, I only had a few flights this spring, it seems to be particularly rowdy. Because I think what we've had is a lot of high pressure days with high lapse rates that we're flying in. And to me in the spring, if you're flying in high pressure days with any wind, with a high lapse rate, all I want to make sure everybody's aware of is you really need to be aware as you approach any kind of snow lines, it's going to pop really hard. So I assume that the people I'm talking to right now are flying cross country. They've flown in spring before. If you've flown in spring before, you know here it's rowdy. If you fly in high pressure this year, it seems to be just really, really rowdy. And so give yourself a little bit more terrain clearance so you can react just a tiny amount to whatever collapses you're about to take. Because if you fly in the conditions we've flown in lately, you are going to take collapses. They are unavoidable. And I fly a bunch, and I usually never take a collapse. I pride myself on keeping my wing open. I have been unable in the last 3 flights to keep the wing open at all times. It's just going to happen. So all I was going to tell people is, and I take questions, but this spring, if we get a high lap, we flew in 30.3 the other day. 30.3 in any wind, if you're approaching any of the lee sides, get ready. It's going to be an event. It's just really rowdy air. That's all I really wanted to say, but I'm welcome to take questions because I know we have a huge contingent of new pilots at the V area mostly that are chomping at the bit to fly cross country, and they've done a great job, but they're really used to flying from the V and a little bit north in the lee from Farmington to Weber, which is great, but they should really be aware that strategy doesn't work as you transfer to other parts of the Wasatch. Flying in the lee and other parts of the Wasatch can get you really in trouble, especially when there is a snow line involved in high pressure. That's all I wanted to say, but I'm welcome to take questions. If anybody wants to comment or take anything. So.
Glad somebody said it. Thank you.
Thank you. There you go. That's all I
Is
want
the
to say.
snow line and the dry area, is that the heat difference?
Yes.
It's just gonna.
So any day we have which we did the other day, we had a southwest flow, and it was a high pressure. It was 30.3, which you rarely fly in that high pressure. And it was a high lapse rate. So the south faces are cooking. There's a southwest flow, which is actually better than north. But the southwest faces are cooking. There's a south flow. As soon as it hits that snow line on the north side, it's a whirlwind going up. So I would just ask people stay maybe 200 to 300 feet above where they normally come into some of these features to give themselves just a little bit of reaction time. Because you're going to need it. I'll be honest. You're going to need it. I don't care how good a pilot you have.
Can I ask, I've been here a while, kind of look out here and see familiar faces. Anyone that hasn't flown cross country on the Wasatch ever, or been to a mountain site on the Wasatch front, raise your hand.
Well, I've been to the V, but not really in the cross yet.
So 2 out of, say, 30 people here? Cool. So I guess this applies to us then. And one thing that I would add to that, and everything that he said, is that there's 5 main points that most instructors will usually cover.
And I'll cover them.
So he's going to continue on with this, but I guess my question would be for Rick, is that when you make your decision to fly, Do you make it for you, or do you make it for a group?
I usually make it for me. I usually make it for me. And here's the points he's talking about. So the easiest way to get out of this sport is that you learn, you're good P2, you're solid, you want to go to cross country over the mountains. Here's the easiest way to get out of mountain flying right off the bat. And it's altitude launches, high altitude launches, high wind, gradients from all the way from the surface to where you're flying and above, high lapse rate, high pressure, and the lack of LZs. And when you combine any or possibly all of those scenarios, you're going, unless you're a freak, which there's a couple of freaks, I won't name them, but unless you're a freak, you're going to be like, I don't understand why people do this. And that's the easiest way to stop mountain flying really before you begin. So I would highly encourage you, if you're looking to fly mountain sites, especially in the spring, if you don't have a mentor, really start doing a bunch of research from your instructor, asking a bunch of questions. Try to figure out a plan, try to figure out a weather situation that you understand, and have a picture of what's happening with the weather. Go to the launch, watch what's actually happening in the launch, and then make a decision for yourself. Because I see a lot of people that just get to launch, and if two people launch, it's like, they just continue to pound off the hill. And then they become people that we don't see anymore on mountainsides, which does nobody any good. So if you really want to keep flying the mountains, it's not something that you're going to do right off the bat and get to this level. You have to actually progress. So.
Volunteer to be a driver too.
Be a driver. Ask a bunch of questions.
Question, watch
I hear echoes in my mind from mountain pilots, you and Jeff posting on his blog or the website and stuff, saying, so I'm a novice mountain flyer. I've flown some in the different hills, but not a lot. Springtime's not the time for me to really start getting out there, right?
No.
I wouldn't suggest that.
Yes? No?
Right.
So that's the echo in my head.
I'm not telling you
head
that.
is-
You're selling yourself short if you're not learning how to build yourself a model. And you're not understanding how and what
Pick a day.
influences, when you should launch. And that's what you're asking, is that's what everyone asks. A first B2, when should I launch? And am I gonna launch in the classic awesome conditions?
Yes.
Not right? It takes an experience. It takes experience to learn what that model is.
130 at the V on a 30.3 day the other day, which we had a pilot that
I read books about this stuff.
don't launch because he should not launch. He had flown, so you can launch at the V even in spring on a low pressure 30 point. I don't want to give a number. A lower pressure day that's declining, you can launch at 3 p.m. and be at Northside by 4:30, maybe 5. You literally can, it's a flight that you can make really easy. And I'm not saying don't fly in the spring, don't be scared. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying heads up. Understand the conditions you're flying in and be prepared for those conditions. That's all I'm saying. I encourage everybody to get out there as much as possible. I want to see tons of wings in the air, because you're markers for me and I can just I can slalom through you.
Okay.
So I'm not saying that at all. And yes, Neil.
So to his comment, the reason why the north side is considered such a forgiving site is because most people are launching after 5 o'clock.
There you go. Gold rule.
So same thing applies everywhere else. So if you're launching during the right conditions, not only time of day right conditions, but good conditions during that time of day, it makes all the difference.
I think another thing, having kind of been out there a while, find yourself a mentor.
Absolutely.
Find yourself a mentor and stick with them and let them teach you. Because you're going to walk up to a mountainside and you're going to feel wind and you're going to be thinking, this is great. But if you don't have a mentor who's flown that side 100 plus times to say what you're feeling is a really bad thing and you don't want to launch. I don't care if it's at noon, I don't care if it's at 5. get a mentor who knows what they're talking about, who's flown the site many times.
I totally agree with that. Here's my one caveat. The reason that people have stepped back, and including me, in terms of mentorship, is I don't want the responsibility, because when I put a post out that I'm going to fly a site, I get overwhelmed. Through text, through messages, through Facebook, I get overwhelmed.
I'm the same way, Rick, and I've stopped doing it too, if you've noticed over the
There you
last
go.
year or so.
And it's like, it's hard.
But it's the pilots who approach me and say, look, I really want to learn how to fly Site X.
Yep.
Great, let's go, let's learn, let's figure it out. Let's teach you slow steps to where you can launch. You can actually have the decision and the knowledge to be able to make the right.
Totally agree.
So with what we both just said about responsibility-wise, there are individuals out there willing to assume that responsibility, to feel
There are.
comfortable in those situations,
Find them.
that are not mentors, they're not instructors, they're not mentors, but they could be a friend to you that can help you in pursuing what you want as a goal in paradigm. And that's hopefully to be safe.
It's to be safe, because
And so,
I have literally, this is my 6th year flying. People think I've flown for years and years. This literally will be my 6th year. In 5 years, I have over 800 hours on cross-country flying. Not the point, not 800 hours. I've flown a variety of countries, variety of conditions. Trust me, I want to fly as bad as anybody else. But if you don't do it safely, if you scare yourself so badly, you won't continue with the sport. You have to keep a smile factor at some point on your face. It's not about like He-Manning it up. You need to be enjoying this at some level. Do I enjoy every minute of every flight? Of course not. But you have to enjoy some portion of the flight. Otherwise, you're not going to do it for very long. That's all.